Do you remember when we were studying section 84 and we talked about people who seem to be allergic to gospel conversation? People that have left the church or left the faith, and the last thing they want to do is talk about it again. Well, they want to talk about it, but only to try to pull other people out of the church as well. We talked about those who seem to be allergic to the very medicine that could be helping, and therefore we need to find some other remedies, some synonyms that might be less overtly scriptural or religious. Remember that conversation? Yeah, we've also talked about Jack in the Box, that when somebody tries so hard to bring God's reality down to their own reality, it's like stuffing a Jack in the box and closing the lid and hooking the latch, and please don't ever let it pop out again. Because if it does, then all of a sudden reality strikes and fills this gap with guilt that I don't want to feel. Okay? Now, how do we engage in conversations when the other person doesn't want to do it? When, again, it seems toxic to them. Section 105 has some amazing counsel in those circumstances. Start in verse 24 and we'll get some hints. The Lord says, "Talk not of judgments, neither boast of faith nor of mighty works, but carefully gather together as much in one region as can be, consistently with the feelings of the people." Now, there's a literal, historical aspect of this revelation, but then there's all these layers of personal application that we can gain. On the historical part, it's these saints that were there in Jackson County and warning the locals about, hey, we're the latter day saints, and so the end is nigh, and this is the one place we're going to be at peace in Zion, so you need to be among us, with us, or get out of town. This is our territory. God is giving us his promised land. Wait, you're going to go around the neighborhood and shout those kinds of judgments at them? No wonder they don't want you around. So let's not talk about those kinds of judgments. Don't go around boasting that your faith is better than their faith, or that your works are mightier than their works, because that kind of the pride among the people will lead to cultural conflict, believe me. Instead, let's do this carefully. And yes, we're going to be gathering because that's how we do things, but you've got to gather more carefully than you have been. And my favorite part, you've got to do it consistently with the feelings of the people. You can't just come barge into their home, their territory, and say, it belongs to us now. No, how are they feeling? Are we moving in too quickly? We see this often with temple construction, and people are concerned, and so we don't just come in with guns blazing and buy the place. It's let's work with the local authorities. Let's work with the local residents. How can we make compromises and move forward in a way that will be a blessing to everyone? Because when all is said and done, we're still going to be neighbors, and we want to live peaceably with one another. Now, if that's historical, but you're starting to see some application, can you get a sense of that if you have a loved one who has left the faith or is struggling in it? Let's not lead out with talk of judgment. And certainly not us judging them for their choices. In fact, if we had ears to hear, they probably have better reasons than we thought they did for the choices that they've made. So let's not talk about judgment. Let's not boast that we're on a higher spiritual ground since we haven't left the church than them having left it. No, that inequality, that power dynamic will never lead to good discussions. That's why I always say reframe the conversation as an interfaith dialogue, because that equalizes things. It's not me on my moral high horse looking down at someone who's left the church. It's me with one type of faith and them with a different type of faith. Even if they claim that it's no faith at all, it's still faith in that absence of faith, okay? And they're learning things and I'm learning things and they're living things and I'm living things, and we'll have a lot to compare notes on as equal conversation partners. You with me? The other part of this is to be more careful in those conversations, because sometimes we don't think about what people are hearing. We're only thinking about what we're saying. We're not sufficiently careful, or we're not doing things consistently with their feelings. Like, how are you doing with this? No wonder they're not going to want to talk to us if we don't care how the conversation goes, if we're not careful and consistent with their feelings. When I train groups on interfaith dialogue, I always use elephants as an example, because elephants have thick skin. And so we need to be careful with our tusks as we're talking across religious divides and so on. But I also say elephants are famous for their huge ears. And it's not Horton hears a who. It's not about listening, although that's what it is for us. For elephants, it's about body heat. And just by opening those ears, there's so much surface area with a very thin skin, the thin ears, so that body heat can dissipate on both sides. And so I often say to these groups, constantly take your temperature. Keep a thermometer on the table, so to speak, so you can sense when things are getting a little too heated. And if you're getting heated or they're getting heated, then just listen. Extend those ears, and the heat will dissipate. We'll need to be consistent with that person's feelings. To have conversations with someone and say, from the get-go, I want to be careful and I want to be consistent with your feelings. I apologize that I haven't always approached our conversations that way. I was devastated when you left, and sometimes that devastation just serves to drive you further away, and that's on me. I'm sorry. I would love to have a conversation. I'm going to try my very best to make it a better one. I want you to feel heard. I want to validate all your negative experiences. I want to empathize with all your hard emotions. I want to be there with you. I just want to understand what happened and what you're going through, what I can change. And so if you'll allow me, that's going to take a leap of faith, because I haven't always been good at this, but I really do want to be consistent with your feelings if you're willing to open up about them. If you look at verse 25, how's this for some advice? Behold, I will give unto you favor and grace in their eyes, that you may rest in peace and safety. That's exactly what we want. We want these conversations to be peaceful. We want both parties to feel safe in speaking their real experiences and their real perspectives, sharing their real emotions. We want to seek favor and grace. As a missionary, I always used to think, never leave anyone with a bad taste in their mouth. If you're going to err on one side, err on the side of mercy, because they'll at least give you another chance to come back and minimize those errors. Or this verse 26, now behold, I say unto you, my friends, in this way you may find favor in the eyes of the people. Or in the previous verse, it was find favor and grace in their eyes. Here he is repeating it. Find favor in the eyes of the people. Stay friends. Maintain the relationship. It's more important to be loving than legalistic. Because if you don't have that love, then your adherence to law isn't going to help them at all. They have cast you into prison. And when you're in prison, can you pay the uttermost farthing? No. So maintain the relationships, okay? That doesn't mean lower your standards. You keep living the gospel, but part of living the gospel is loving those who might not be living it or loving it themselves, okay? Agree to disagree without becoming disagreeable is how it's often said. Stay friends, seek favor. And then verse 27, and I will soften the hearts of the people, as I did the heart of Pharaoh from time to time. Yes, pray for that softened heart, yours as well as theirs. Trust that it will come, but also realize it may only come from time to time. Some conversations will go better than others. And some like, oh, that one did not go as I'd hoped. I got too frustrated, or they got too defensive, or Heavenly Father, please give me another chance with them. Help me reassure them that I wasn't careful enough and I wasn't consistent with their feelings, but I'm trying to find favor. And can we try again? I'll keep the thermometer on the table. You can tell me when it starts to get too heated, and then I'll just listen and I won't get defensive and I won't try to fix the problem. Please help me with that. I just want to stay connected to you. And then verse 31 and 32. But first, let my army become very great. This is still Zion's camp. That's the army, quote unquote. And let it be sanctified before me. Oh, sanctified soldiers. That's a different kind of armament. This is the sword of the Spirit and the Word. This is the shield of faith. But in the process, we can become fair as the sun and clear as the moon, and that her banners may be terrible unto all nations. That the kingdoms of this world, including the kingdom of that son or daughter, that husband or wife, that struggling friend, that the kingdoms of this world may be constrained to acknowledge that the kingdom of Zion is in very deed the kingdom of our God and his Christ. Therefore, let us become subject unto her laws. And what are those laws of the celestial kingdom that this revelation has already referred to? One heart, one mind, dwelling in righteousness with no poor among us. It's celestial kingdom because it's made up of celestial kings and queens in the making. As I said before, when will we finally become a church worth returning to? When will we become loved ones that truly love? When will we live that celestial law and build the Zion that we are in process of becoming? I don't know about you, but I have my work cut out for me. Unity, peace, love, understanding. That's what God is asking of us. And honestly, if I can become that kind of person, then the person who has judged the church and found it wanting will be constrained, not by me forcing them, but constrained simply by what they see. Constrained to acknowledge, wow, maybe I misjudged the church because the church, or maybe I left it too hastily. They were still growing up in God, but they're getting there. And the closer they come to him, the closer I want to come to them. That's the hope. What he says in verse 35, there has been a day of calling, but the time has come for a day of choosing. And let those be chosen that are worthy. Little foreshadowing to section 121 there. And in 121, we'll see some other great advice on how to influence other people positively. Or verse 37 through 39, inasmuch as they follow the counsel which they receive. That's what we got to do. It's not just them, those people that have left the church. They weren't following counsel. No, I wasn't. The counsel to love and be kind and compassionate and so on. But if we follow that counsel, they shall have power after many days, and we're still waiting on those, but power after many days to accomplish all things pertaining to Zion. So yeah, be patient. This is going to take a while. And again, I say unto you, sue for peace, not only to the people that have smitten you, but also to all people, your fellow saints that might be a little too heated. And lift up an ensign of peace and make a proclamation of peace unto the ends of the earth. That's a word that is synonymous with Zion also, peace. Section 45 says it's the only place that is peaceful on earth, the only place where we won't be at war with one another. So sue for peace. Lift an ensign of peace. Make a proclamation of peace. Again, that's some of those preemptive conversation starters to say to the person on the other side of a faith loss, I just want to have a peaceful conversation with you. No judgment, just understanding. I still don't feel like I fully understand what happened and everything that lies behind your choice. If I need to zip my lip the whole time and just listen and nod and validate, then I will. This is my proclamation of peace. This is my ensign, my flag waving, and it's a white one. I surrender, not my conviction, but my impatient approach in forcing it upon you. I just want to be at peace with you. There's a verse in 1 Samuel where Samuel's coming to Bethlehem, and he's going to call a king, but there's some potential friction, and the people aren't sure. Is he coming in with guns blazing because he's still mad that we wanted a king instead of continued prophets? And I love the conversation. The people ask Samuel, "Comest thou peaceably?" And he said, "Peaceably." And then fast forward, and when King David dies, one of his sons approaches Bathsheba. And this is a potential, who's the heir to the throne? And Bathsheba says to Adonijah, "Comest thou peaceably?" And he said, "Peaceably." If we can reassure, can you picture a prodigal child? Talk about power differential. If they look at you and sense that you want to talk church with them, what are they wondering? Comest thou peaceably? Can we respond with that one word of reassurance? Peaceably. As Paul taught the Romans, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men, especially the ones we're supposed to love best. It's not too much to ask of us to be peaceable. In fact, more than what's in us, what can be granted to us through the grace of God.